Figures everyone would start to do the Homer in the Bush meme after that last Halloween special. Cold opener for this one was mostly just a symbolic little display of the Ojamajo arriving at Hana's next health exam with the literally looming threat of Majo Heart above them. Though, to be fair, she does make for a much more intimidating villain than the current Bundle Gang. The show proper opened on me after a long day, or rather Majorika, I'm assuming sleeping away her vacation withdrawals from the last episode. Speaking of which, they actually did make Hana learning how to crawl in that episode important, as it would cover what the next health exam was going to be all about. So you see, it was all worth putting up with that overdone bit of having Doremi suffer for no particular reason. You know, aside from the fact that Squidward needs company. With that, they reused this old animation and made their way to the exams. Of course, they were in a particularly difficult situation, as they also had to make up for their previously failed test, which I still stand by was pretty damn BS, with half of it playing out like an episode of Nickelodeon's Double Dare, and them getting those yellow cards for rather arbitrary reasoning. Well, hopefully this one will be at least a little more sensible. I just jinxed myself, didn't I? Anyway, while waiting for things to start, they dropped Hana off in a playpen. They also noticed that the Motus kids had gotten a little bigger, especially in the head. Seriously, you should probably get them checked out for tumors.
Hey, look at the size of his cranium!
Then, honestly, I think these weird-ass designs got a little more of a laugh out of me than some of the actual jokes they tried to tell in this scene. Well, y'all be happy to know that I won't be making fun of this character's voice acting anymore, not when there's easier stuff to make fun of. And while I realize this is supposed to be Doremi's index finger, it just looks like, yeah, you know what it is. Anyway, the exam started, and they were taken to what looked like a racetrack, and no, I'm not even really exaggerating, as there were also checkpoints where they were supposed to feed, change their diapers, and then have them take naps, which is all part of this pretty elaborate little obstacle course. Then why did you set up like one? In fact, what did you just say a few seconds ago? Yeah, you're kind of sending some mixed messages here, lady. Yeah, when you get down to it, these health exams are kind of insane, to the point I'd argue they become counterintuitive. I mean, I get that it's also kind of meant for laughs, but as is often said, comedy does require at least some grounding in reality, and them being in a magical world doesn't automatically negate that. I mean, at least when Malcolm in the Middle did, it was because of a bunch of dude-bro dads banging on their own kids. Actually, that might be a little bit too close to reality. Eventually, they ended up at a freaking hedge maze where I guess outright cheating was okay. Again, I just want to know what the point of half this stuff was. You know, other than letting the kids recreate Spider-Man 2. Following this, they reached the required rest area where they were supposed to feed and burp the kids, and it was here that I was thinking the big lesson of the episode was going to be not to give in to needless competitive mindsets and just let developing kids advance at their own pace, which is what it seemed like they were going with for the first half of this episode, but the latter half kind of negates that for reasons I'll explain in just a bit. Anyway, they moved on to the next part of the course with an elongated ball pit, and honestly, I think everyone should have failed at this point. I mean, come on, they're ignoring the most important rule about ball pits. Never go in ball pits. I think even the Motus kids recognized this and tried to get out. And okay, either these two are Kryptonian, or this ball pit was very poorly put together, which again, I'm just leaning towards the latter. But yeah, kind of miraculously, no one was hurt, and in fact, just laughed it off, because that's totally what you should be doing in this situation. To be fair, it did seem to lead them to a shortcut to the finish line, but... Well, okay, obviously Onbu should tell everyone that they're on the wrong course and that they should just go back up that hill and... Though Majo Heart also learned about this and actually was going to tell them that... One more meme, please.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
So yeah, about but that whole bit of letting kids go at their own pace, well, that's kind of negated when for the remainder of the episode, these kids are going to be on the advanced course. I mean, like, what exactly even is supposed to be the message of this episode at this point? Is it that we should try not to be too competitive? Because while that is called out a little, it never really sticks in this episode. Are they encouraging us to go at our own pace? Because again, that's kind of hard to do when the kids are on the advanced course. Really, it just feels like things are happening for the sake of the plot, regardless of how little sense it makes.
A crummy world of plot holes and spelling errors.
Anyway, we did get one unironically good scene with the return of Ompu's lullaby to put a still fidgety Hana to sleep. As usual, it was just a plain good song, and did prove why the Ojamajo are generally better parents when they're not ignoring signs, unlike these two stooges who rushed out without letting their kids catch some Z's. As a result, Hana was easily able to overcome the next part of the exam by float crawling. Granted, this might have been because of Mitsuru Aoyama's usually wonky animation, but this episode has been perfectly fine in terms of animation compared to some of his other lazier episodes, so yeah, she probably is legit floating perfectly parallel to even a curved surface. The only obstacles they did run into were because of the Mota's kids, because really, these characters have only been a hindrance throughout the season. This especially became apparent when they tried crossing some stones, and yeah, remember that earlier plot point?
That'll be a 10 on the whoop scale.
Of course, the Ojamajo used the magical stage to save the day.
Everyone died! The end.
Now, of course, the rocks acted as a dam, and the kids managed to pull themselves out, as the parents just watched and exposited. Oh, and Majo Heart was watching all of this, and you know, I'd just like to remind everyone that a lot of this could have been avoided if everyone hadn't been such an idiot. Honestly, I think her passing everyone was just a means of covering her own ass, as at the very least, I really don't think the Mota should even have kids at this point. But yeah, the episode ended with the Ojamajo double passing their exam and being given some magical chamomile, an herb that can be brewed into a sleep aid, though obviously Masharika didn't need it. So yeah, we're still dealing with some subpar episodes for this season, and while this is far from the worst, it was also kind of all over the place, for better and for worse. In the case of the latter, it did lead to some very questionable story choices, including characters making some outright dumb decisions, and I'm not just talking about the Motas, though they certainly didn't help matters. Though at times, it also did become so inane that it did kind of fall into so bad it's good territory, for me at least, so that's something I guess. Needless to say, I don't think the health exams of this season have been nearly as good as the apprentice exams from the previous. A little ironic considering both involve these two. And sure, while the Motas could be a little aggravating as examiners, their annoyance for whatever reason got upped as examinees. Not only have they been needlessly naggy on the Ojamajo, they and their kids were actual obstacles in this episode because of their competence as parents. Granted, everyone felt a little off in terms of both their parenting and characterization in this one. While she's still not incredibly fleshed out or anything, it does feel a bit out of character for Majohar to let her examinees go off course onto an advanced one. Then it feels especially off when Ompu knowingly disregards this, as not only would she worry about Hana, but she would also try to find the most efficient route to their goal, which usually does involve suddenly upping the difficulty. Scenes like this kind of take me out of the episode, and they just become illogical, disjointed events. Not to mention, things do feel rather repetitive when the Ojamajo always end up hanging out with Dumb and Dumber and the cephalopods throughout these episodes. About the only things that were saving this were the return of the lullaby, and at times the laughable randomness of it all, like the big climax at the river, which was supposed to be suspenseful, but with how many loops they went through to get to it, yeah, no. Thus, overall, this was really not a good episode, but at least it was entertainingly bad at times. That said, I really don't want to have to see these other parents and their weird-ass mutant babies ever again in this show. For the month of November, we're just gonna slow things down a little, just so that we're a little bit more open in case any big announcements come up. but at the same time, we will also be working on a few things in the background. By next year, we also do want to work on the secondary channel, which I will provide links for in the description below. If you're at all interested in card game anime, then we've got a few interesting projects in the works that you might be interested in. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and, hold on. Hello? I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I'll take that under advisement. Well, that's not a bad idea, honestly.